Even renting right now is so difficult because property taxes are so high. So there's not even good rentals anywhere. There's literally no place for them to downsize, which is why so many people have actually left. You have people who are overpaying for homes right now. I don't see how we don't have a crash at some point. They're like, forget it, I'm not building in that town. It's too difficult. There are too many fees. Any experienced agent who's in that town can talk to you about, do you have good regulations in your village or do you have bad? I know we're always talking about property taxes and interest rates, and there's not much you can do about the interest rates. It's not a political conversation. It's like, let's do what's good for the state.
Home ownership's a key part of the American dream. That's why today we have Kati Spaniak. She's a seasoned agent and home selling expert who has over a decade worth of experience in the real estate industry. She's going to talk to us about what's happening in Illinois and across the country. Kati, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you. I could talk about real estate all day long.
Well, you've been in the industry for over a decade.
Yeah.
I would love to hear, how did you get into it? Like, how did you get your start?
Yeah, so back in the early 2000s, I just kind of dabbled in it a little bit, and then I had my kids. And then I ended up going through a divorce, and I was like, well, I need to work, so I'm going to go back into real estate. And that was about 2012. And since then, I have just been full-time real estate agent. I've sold about 500 million in real estate, 700 transactions. I'm pretty experienced. I've referred thousands of real estate agents to sellers and buyers across the country as well. So I love what I do. This is a real passion of mine.
Talk to me about your transition into content creation and how you became an expert in selling your home and creating
Yeah.
these pages and videos that you're doing.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. We're about 82,000 subscribers right now. I've had a YouTube channel for about 8 years or so. Once I decided about, I'd say a little over 3 years ago, to kind of go all in, I just started recording every week, really talking to sellers and buyers. And because I believe that a seller, really truly sellers who are more educated, get more money for their home and they have less stress, because I've seen so many people make mistakes. I've seen so many people work with agents who have guided them down the wrong path too. And so I felt like I really wanted to educate people. And I believed that in some way it would come back to me where, people might hire me to help them, sell their home locally, but that isn't kind of what really happened. The channel really took off in a national way. And so I have a lot of followers from all over the country, actually in the world, who follow me about how to get their homes ready to sell, for more money and stress-free. So that's it just kind of snowballed. I think that, I think my videos are pretty honest and real. I kind of tell the truth. Good and bad, good and bad. So I think that's where my traction has come in. I have a very large Facebook group of only home sellers, people who are wondering how they can get their home sold. And then I'm coming out with a book this fall as well, Sell Your Home Without Blowing Up Your Life. So as I said, I'm really passionate about this. I founded an company really called Truth in Real Estate. And that is about elevating the real estate industry, elevating self-accountability in agents, but helping sellers and buyers become more educated so they can navigate this very difficult road in real estate.
I mean, truthfully, real estate is one of those industries where hopefully everyone gets to touch at least once in their life. And it's exciting, but probably one of the most stressful experiences. Moving is stressful. Looking for homes is stressful. Could you tell me a little bit about what trends you're noticing right now? Especially, I feel like since COVID, things are wacky. And then what you're seeing, I guess, nationally, but in Illinois specifically,
Yeah.
because I guess to clarify, you started in Illinois with
Yes.
this work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I sell in Florida and in Illinois. North Shore of Chicago basically is kind of where I built my business. And so when I'm talking to sellers across the country, it's amazing because there are some states that have no inventory and then some states who have a lot of inventory, and Illinois has no inventory. And that's really it's very painful right now for buyers in the Chicagoland market, especially downstate as well. They also have a lack of inventory too. And that is, it's a huge, huge issue right now. And I don't foresee that ending anytime in the very near future.
Why would you say that is true?
So I can give you my whole spiel about why this is kind of happening across the country with, I'll say the blue states versus the red states. And I say that because this all kind of started during COVID when the blue states were more locked down. So people kind of migrated to the red states. So right now, many of the blue states do have a lack of inventory. And that's because this is my assessment just from working with people, and what I believed is that when COVID happened, and people, were locked down, kids weren't in school, the people who wanted to leave Illinois or could leave Illinois left. So there was a large, group of people who decided, I'm not sticking around. I want to get my kids in school, and they left. And so the people who stayed in Illinois, like I'd say probably 2023 and beyond, really have to be there. So they have to be there, family, job, or they want to be there. Like they're like, we're never moving. So anybody who really wanted to move already moved. And so there's not much movement right now in Illinois between house to house. And the main reason that is because of the interest rates. Main reason. And the interest rates are really because, a lot of these people had a 2 or 3% mortgage, and they're not looking to move to get a smaller home or downsize and have a higher mortgage rate, like a monthly rate payment. So the problem is now the prices have really gone up, and now they're really like, we're not moving. So it's this really difficult dynamic in Illinois right now where unless those interest rates start to come down, I don't see that movement really happening.
And one thing I wonder that plays into it is how much does the building of new construction play into that, where there is no new inventory because there's nothing being built?
So this is a really good question that I really have thought a lot about. The the problem is that you don't have a lot of opportunities for new construction in a lot of the very dense areas already. So like if I'm looking at the North Shore of Chicago, you don't have a lot of opportunities for land there. And so and I'm just going to kind of group it because that's like the area that I know, but you could group it like western suburbs as well, or any other locations. Those people don't want to leave that area, right? So it's not like you can build new construction in Gurnee and they're going to be moving out of the North Shore to Gurnee, which you could build new construction there. There's land there. So you have to look at it. What is the market doing? And there's just not a lot of opportunity to build new. So now downstate, there's a lot more opportunity to build new because there's more land. So it's a little bit different thing. So when you kind of look at all of Illinois and you put this broad brush over the whole state, it's very hard to do because you have to take each area of the state and decide if it, first of all, if you can build it there, and second of all, are people going to come? Because when I'm moving people, let's say out of Chicago to the North Shore, they're not looking in Gurnee, that they're not, they don't want to be there. So just because there's new there doesn't mean they want to be there or they can be there. So it's very specific into where people actually want to live. And that's what I think is kind of missing from the conversation.
People want to be in a certain school district, or
They do.
they want to live near a certain amenity.
Right.
Um, Thinking big picture for a minute, how would you say selling a home is different now versus 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago?
Yeah. A lot of things have changed. The market is what the market is, and the buyer's willing to pay, what the house is worth to them. And so what we're seeing right now is buyers are willing to pay way, way, way above kind of market value. And because everything is online now, Buyers are very, very educated about homes. They're very educated about what homes are worth, about taxes. They research the area before they actually go see the home. So like, all the Google views, they can see if you have like a hoarder living next to you. So they know this already. So they're moving very, very quick through their pictures, through everything. And so buying and selling a home has definitely changed because of the technology. It's really, really different. What hasn't really changed, though, much to people's dismay, is that real estate agents are still really involved, and they kind of have to be. And so even though technology has kind of made things different, it has not eliminated necessarily the real estate agent. There's still that personal connection needed, that local insight, boots on the ground insight of what's going on house to house to house in every community. So a lot has changed, but what hasn't is the connection people have with real estate agents.
Well, tell me about that. What are the qualities people should be looking for? I mean, I think real estate is one of those industries where there's a lot of people in it. So what really makes a good agent?
Oh gosh, so this is what I talk about all the time on my channel because there are a lot of bad real estate agents out there. There are, and I've done a lot of analysis on this to really understand the dynamics of it. And it's not that they're bad, they're bad people, but they're providing advice that they shouldn't be providing because mainly they're inexperienced.
I mean, everyone has like someone's mom who does it,
Right.
not to overgeneralize, but
Exactly. So,
that exists.
I've worked with thousands of people, written thousands of contracts, and I've learned, and I always say this, I've learned something new on every single deal. And so somebody brand new does not have that knowledge. And so the problem with our industry, the real problem with our industry, is that a good and a bad agent, or an experienced and an inexperienced agent, charge the same amount.
Mhm.
So the problem is that you get people who love their real estate agents. They're great agents out there. They've made them more money. They, help them alleviate the stress, and they are like they're worth every penny. And then you get these agents who aren't experienced who are making the same amount of money. And so then the perception in the United States of those agents, those are the ones who get the bad rap. So that's really the main issue with our industry is you have to understand who is experienced in our industry. And this is what I talk about all the time when you're looking for a good agent. The very first thing you have to start with is transactions. You have to start with the number of transactions that somebody has individually sold. And new agents can get around this. I'm telling you kind of the secrets here. New agents can get around this by saying, "Oh, we've sold, 100 homes this month." Well, that might be the brokerage. So you have to say, how many have you individually sold? Or if you're on a team, how many have you individually sold? And I'm saying that an agent that sells about 30 homes a year, depending on the price point, if it's a lower price point, it might be more. If it's a higher, it might be less. They need to sell about 30 homes a year in order to be like in the industry where they're working full time, they're getting up, they're doing the work that they need to do. That is what I consider to be kind of a baseline. And somebody who's been doing this for, the last 5 years at least, 150 deals in the last 5 years is kind of what I look for when I'm referring agents to people
What
across the country.
are there any other like red flag or green flag indicators?
There are a lot. There are a lot. So, an indicator, see, the problem with the industry is that we have to be self accountable, right? And so a lot of people just aren't self accountable. So they think they might be, but they're not necessarily like being accountable to themselves or to other people in what they're doing. So the other red flags, I would say, they're part-timers. I hate to say this, because there's so many part-timers out there who are making a living doing this. If they are part-timers, they should be charging less money. Like the consumer should be able to say, okay, great, you're a part-time agent. That's great. I'm not going to pay you as much. So, another red flag
Uh,
is that they take pictures with their phones. You know,
Instead of using like a professional firm.
Yeah, they don't really understand marketing. They don't have and I will tell you, this is the biggest thing with real estate agents, their email system down. They're not organized with their email system. So there are a lot, but the main thing that I want people to watch out for is to make sure you're working with an experienced agent. If you're not, then you should be able to ask for a reduced commission.
Let's talk about that because this is a relatively new concept and I think there's a lot of confusion around it. Um, Tell me what you mean and then how this flexibility even came to be, right? With it's a Supreme Court case.
You mean the lawsuit that happened a couple years ago with the buyers and the sellers?
I believe so. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah. So there was a lawsuit. It was a class action lawsuit. And they were basically suing brokerages because it used to be where when you would go and sign a listing agreement, the seller's agent would just say, okay, we're going to charge you 5% or 6%, and wouldn't really say what you were paying out to the buyer's agent. And the buyers would come and they would write an offer, and the buyer's agent would get paid out of that. And the lawsuit was like, wait a second, I'm paying for the buyer's agent fee, and I didn't know that. So it's a little more complicated than that. So basically what the lawsuit did, and now what is done, is that we've separated the list side commission and the buy side commission. And so the I will tell you, the law did not really do what it was intended to do, because now what happens is a real estate agent goes in and says, I'm going to charge you 2.5%. And the sellers are like, wow, gosh, that's fantastic. I thought it was 5%. Well, what you don't know is that the buyer's agent is going to come with an offer, with their offer, a request for the seller to still pay the buyer's agent. So the sellers are still in most areas of the whole country, because I've seen many, many people, they are still paying the buyer agent. So the problem is that now the seller's agents can go in and raise up their commission a little bit more. And the sellers think, wow, that's a deal, but they're not really understanding exactly how it works. So if I could just what I want you to do is, if you're taking a listing agreement, if you are going to be selling your house, I want to make sure that you understand how much, three things. You understand how much are you paying your listing agent? Like, that's the first thing I want you to ask. The second thing is, how much are you paying a buyer's agent if they bring an offer? Now, you can choose to have it say nothing, and the agent may say something like, well, if you don't offer compensation, nobody's going to come. Well, you can just say, have them put it into the offer. Okay. So you need to know the sellers, you need to know how much am I paying a buyer's agent, and then you need to know how much are you paying if there is no agent on the other side. Those are the three things that a seller who's confused can ask their agent and can understand. Like that should be very clear. There should be no ambiguity about it.
If you like this video and want more like it, don't forget to like and subscribe. What are mistakes that sellers are making that you just shake your head at?
Oh, so many. Um, the honestly, the biggest mistake, and it's more of an overall thing, which is why I do have people who watch my channel, is the education. Many sellers think they know the answers without really knowing it, especially because they sold 10, 15 years ago. And the whole industry has changed. Buyers have access to everything. So it's kind of a two-part, is that not educating yourself about the new process is, you need to be a great partner with your agent in the process. And this is tied into the second mistake, which is the biggest mistake, is one of the second or third, pricing your home too high. And, until you really know the education and the psychology, this is really about psychology with the buyers and how they purchase homes. You can't list your home too high. It's just gonna kill the home sale. You're gonna make less money, and you're gonna have a ton more stress and a ton more showings. So you have to make sure you're choosing the right agent to get you the correct price. You can also watch my channel. And so this is what I talk about, and this is how I educate people ongoing.
I think I saw you post a few examples of these on your channel. Um, what's one thing that's like a waste of time versus one thing that you wouldn't think about that's actually really important when you're selling your home as like an indicator of your home quality?
You mean like a waste of time for a seller to do?
Yeah.
Updates that aren't going to get you a return. So there are a couple updates that I don't love, and I don't love replacing kitchen countertops. It's one of my least favorite because you still have an old kitchen and you're trying to fake out these young buyers who are very, very educated. These young buyers are on Instagram, they're on Pinterest, they're flipping through, they're seeing HGTV homes. And when you take that countertop that you think is trendy and put it on old cabinetry, they're like, oh, we have to rip everything out. So that's a complete waste of money. The other thing is fixing things that you don't know could be an issue. Like you think they're an issue, but you don't know for sure. And that's my cracked concrete. I have many homeowners who say, oh my gosh, we've got this cracked sidewalk around the back. We have to fix it. And I'm like, do not, even a cracked driveway, don't do it, because that's not a reason somebody isn't going to buy a home. So, I want people to understand there might be a reason why somebody might not buy your home and you don't know it. Like you don't know it until you talk to an agent. So I really think you got to get an agent in early to give you that advice about what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
On the flip side, I think you've said, don't ignore your bathroom mold.
Oh, yeah, that is a good one. Yeah.
Well,
So the main thing really I want you to do is, if you're thinking about selling, is I want you to clean, 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 clean. That's what I talk about, because people can really, really feel that. And to that end, that goes into my mold in the shower. Okay. So like, I want you to pretend that your home is a hotel room. And I want you to go into your bathroom and I want you to think about, okay, so if I walked into this hotel room and it looked like this, and there's like mold in the corner of the tub, or you have like wet towels hanging from, would you ask for a new room? So like you got to look at the little tiny things that a buyer would look at. Don't be like, oh, they're never going to care about that. No, they do. They care, they get the icks, and then they leave. It's all emotional. Yeah, the mold.
um, hmm. Okay. So looking to Illinois specifically, if we were spending some time, I mean, you've spent a decade and over a decade around the Illinois area and the North Shore. Um, I think one thing that's hard to ignore in our market are property taxes.
Mhm. Yeah.
How would you say that plays a role in Illinois compared to, I mean, Florida or
Yeah, I
other
mean, it's
places?
it's really tough. Gosh, I've I you don't see it as much on the North Shore because it's a little more affluent, but you do see it in other locations where you do have people whose maybe their homes are paid off and their taxes keep going up. I don't know how they are doing it. Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how they are able to pay that money, and then they're going to sell. But the problem is where are they going to go? Even renting right now is so difficult because property taxes are so high. So there's not even good rentals anywhere. And it's a real housing problem. And I hate to call it affordable housing, affordable, um, which has been, the term used in Illinois for many, many years. We're talking about just getting housing. Like people just being able to live in a location is becoming unattainable in some areas. And it's a real problem. It's a real problem in Illinois.
How do you balance, or how does Illinois need to balance the dichotomy of needing new housing and then, well, there's concerns about new development sometimes. If it is a single family home, there's concern that that might bring home values down instead of up. Or if there are more apartment style, then or, granny flats, those additional dwelling units, then there's concerns about what that might mean for the neighborhood. So I feel like there's a lot of tricky conversations. And then how does the real estate industry navigate that?
Yeah, so this is something, and I can talk for a while about this one. Um, it's difficult because when people are making policy, when you have the lawmakers making policy, and they're looking at it from up here, they're not looking at it from a real estate agent's perspective. And a real estate agent's perspective is about the market value. So, like, let's pretend, on the North Shore, they're going to do additional housing, and it's going to have to be higher density, which means it's going to be smaller. Uh, your people who currently live there are not going to move there. Like they just probably are not going to move into an apartment when they've had a single family. So when you're looking at that, like let's say you're looking at building something in a community, you have to talk about who is moving in. And it will definitely change the character of the town, but you have to figure out how. Like, and an agent can actually tell you, like an agent who works that market can tell you. And that's the problem, is that nobody's talking to agents. And it goes into the idea that agents are, dumb or stupid, because a lot of people have had bad experience with agents. But you get some really, really good agents who understand these little things that are going on in their specific community. Now, I'm not talking at the state level. Just like I can't talk about things that I don't understand with a broad stroke. So that's why I kind of hate all of the national, statements. Housing's going down, housing's going up, because real estate is so local. So like, for example, and I mean, I'm going to bring up something in Northbrook that happened a couple years ago, and they had an opportunity to build on the Green Acres site there. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It was a huge parcel of land, huge parcel. Green Acres sold. And so they tried for many years to build on this property. And I know I'm going to get a little specific. There's this development in Northbrook called Ancient Tree. An Ancient Tree is from like the late 70s. And it's smaller, but it's very, very popular. And it's popular with the older people who live in the town of Northbrook or on the North Shore. So they can view Ancient Tree as like a place where they would go to live as a downsizing. It's got community, it's got very low assessments. It's a great place. Now it is dense, okay? It is dense, but they are okay with it. It works really, really well. When this whole development was going through, I was very kind of a little outspoken about, they should try and build another Ancient Tree type thing there, because the problem is on the North Shore, and I can talk about the North Shore only, this may be different in different areas. The North Shore, those people who are in those larger homes or who are used to more of a luxury home have no place to go. So they have literally no place to go. So
when they're ready to like sell their home and downsize, and
there's literally no place for them to downsize, which is why so many people have actually left, because they can't find something that's the quality that they've been used to in their area. They can't find something smaller. Okay, so the problem is and I know this because I ended up talking to the builder about this, what they were putting there. And the local village put a lot of restrictions on what could go there because they didn't want it to be too dense. And I was like, gosh, what they really should do is put a bunch of condos out the back. Like it just in a creative way, I was thinking that are like luxury condos that people could snowbird, things like that. But the problem is that they had to adhere to Northbrook's affordable housing policy, the actual affordable housing policy, but they didn't want it too dense. And the only way the builder could make any money was to make it denser, but the village didn't want that. So the deal, it was just unaffordable for them to do that, okay? So they had the opportunity with this huge parcel of land that nobody was actually talking to the people who really understood what was going on. Nobody ever asked the local agents on the ground, what should we do with this? And so when you're looking at local or state mandates or laws, what is the market value? What is the market looking for? And that's where you need to start. And then you need to figure out how can developers build something there so they can make a profit, because they're not going to build something there if they're not making a profit. So the long and short of it is DuPage actually came in and bought this parcel of land, and they've turned it into a water facility treatment to bring water in from Lake Michigan to DuPage. And so now that land is gone. So it's those types of
just for clarity, you're saying like there was a block of land, it could have added homes, it could have worked
Yeah.
for communities who needed it, which would have opened up more inventory, could have had young families move into these homes that the people who wanted to downsize moved out of, and they could have stayed close to their kids. Like it could have worked, but instead they just kind of washed their hands of it, and it didn't work for the builders because it didn't financially make sense.
Right. And I'm not going to say that the village board necessarily was wrong. I mean, they were trying to have conversations, but they're trying to implement a policy of affordable housing, and it defeated the purpose of what is really needed for those homeowners who have lived on the North Shore for years and have paid taxes for 30 years, raised their children, they went through the school. What those homeowners needed was a development that fit them. And that's what was missing from the conversation, is what did they need? And that's what's really missing, is what do the people of Illinois need? And it's not just saying, oh, we need affordable housing in, Northbrook or on the North Shore. Okay. It's so much more than that, so much bigger than that. But then they get hooked in these little tiny things. And this goes into the ADUs, I believe, as well, which I think will probably, if you want me to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois has been flirting with a state mandate on them, but the Illinois General Assembly didn't go so far as to pass legislation that would have allowed them. I think, I believe a lot of communities currently don't allow them. What is your take on them?
So, um, I think that could be a large issue, ADUs on properties, because it goes back to my whole idea about what is the market saying. It depends on where you put them. Okay. So let's say they go on the North Shore. That's fine. They can go there. You might get a few people who are wanting to build them. How many people on the North Shore want an ADU? Probably not a ton, right? So then you look at, like, maybe an area that has a little larger lot, but maybe the homes aren't as expensive. And they're like, I'd like to do this. Maybe I could rent it out. Maybe my parents could live here. So they might do more of it. But now the question comes in that I don't really see that's been raised, is about the taxes, the tax implications of putting additional square footage on these properties. Like, what happens when the parents die, or what happens if it's not rented? You know, the value of the home goes up, maybe, but I can tell you a lot of people aren't going to buy homes that have ADUs on them.
Well, and you talked a little bit, and I know you're not a home builder, but building regulations and the way they play into decisions that builders make. I mean, have you heard from builders about how regulations play into their
Oh,
decisions?
oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. There are some builders who won't build in certain towns because of the regulations of that town. Again, that's a very local issue that any great real estate agent can talk to you about. Any experienced agent who's in that town can talk to you about. Do you have good regulations in your village, or do you have bad? And so that is absolutely a reason. So to say, oh, we're going to let builders build more at the state level, we're going to provide all these things. Well, they're like, forget it. I'm not building in that town. It's too difficult. There are too many fees. I can't make it work. And it's got to all be about how much can they make on the upside. And if it's not going to work for them, they don't have to build there.
That's right. That's right. So, what you were saying before, I don't know if there will be an answer to this, but I'm curious because it could be so specific. What does an agent, a real estate broker, want an Illinois lawmaker to do to make it, or a federal lawmaker to do to make housing better?
I think in Illinois, I think property taxes need to come down. I think, all I'm seeing is them continuing to rise. And now what you're going to have is, you have people who are overpaying for homes right now. I don't see how we don't have a crash at some point. I really don't. And so, just like going back into 2007, 2008, which was a different reason, you are getting people overpaying for homes. They are aware they're overpaying. They know they're overpaying. But have they really thought that the market is going to go down? It will go down. It has to come back down. Are they going to be underwater? What if they're transferred for their job? What if they lose their job? Are they going to be underwater? So I don't know exactly, I don't know exactly what can happen, but the property taxes are kind of like the basis for where it needs to start. It's easy to bring down the cost, easy, I say easy, easy to bring down the property taxes, and then you know, you can afford a home. Um, so as an agent, I know we're always talking about property taxes and interest rates, and there's not much you can do about the interest rates. But until the interest rates come down on the mortgages, you you have people with a 2.25 interest rate. Like, why are they going to move? They're like, no, we're just going to stick it out. And why am I going to overpay? So I don't really know what the right answer is, but I know those two things are what agents would probably say.
And you touched on this a little, but of course, we don't have a crystal ball here. But if you were looking at the real estate industry and let's just say the Chicago market, because every market is a little different, what does the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years look like?
Oh, pain. I still see prices being very high because of that interest rate. Um, and the property taxes are going up. Um, so I just, I'm gonna tell you, my daughter was looking for a rental even in Lincoln Park. There were 50 people who were in line there. Like, you can't even get housing. Like, that's the real problem. So what does it look like? I think prices are still going to be high. Um, I think they're still going to be high I would say for the next year, unless those interest rates are moving somewhat. But there's been no indication that they will.
I wonder, how is that different compared to other markets, and what have they done to avoid this?
So it's a little bit different because I also sell in the Florida market. And in the Florida market, and this goes back to the red blue thing, is that you had all these homes going up, in price during COVID, but a lot of those were second homes. And so now all those people are trying to get rid of their second homes. A lot of people are selling in addition, like, again, you got to look at it locally. There's a huge ordinance in Florida with condo buildings after that collapse of the Surfside building. So the condo market has undergone a tremendous upheaval because there's been a lot of fees related to that in doing inspections and such and fixing that. So, you know, right now in these markets, you kind of have to look at the sellers have to work on their pricing. They're understanding that the market isn't what it was 3 years ago. The market is still doing okay in the other states, but the sellers aren't getting what they want. And so the sellers need to adjust their expectations. Most anybody who bought a home in 2019 or 2018 is making money right now. Now, if they had sold it 2 years ago, could they have made $200,000 more? They might have, but they didn't. So now it's like, yeah, you're making money. Do you really need to make, that much? I mean, can't you just say, yes, you got a return? So it's the seller's expectations in the other states that's causing a little stagnancy, I would say.
You're saying people are kind of holding out for a market like flip so
Yeah.
they can make more money. Is that ever going to come? Ooh, we don't know, but would you guess?
I don't know. I'm counting on Florida is getting rid of the property tax. Uh, Property taxes in Florida probably will give a bump to Florida. Like, that might help, but I don't see it. I don't see that right now. I just see everything being super expensive. Um, I'm not seeing a lot of movement. Um,
Talk about a different conversation, though. You have a state that property taxes are only going up, and then a state where there might not be property taxes.
right, right. Two totally different things.
Considerations.
Yeah.
Before I move on, is there anything else that you would want to that I didn't ask you about that you think is important to know about the industry and the real estate market?
I talked about a lot of stuff. You know what? I
Good
would
stuff.
say that selling a home is traumatic. It is, I think, the number seven leading cause of stress in your life. And so when you're thinking about selling your home, you can't just go into it like, oh, we're going to go sell our home. It's it's a whole different ball game right now. And so you really have to educate yourself and you have to figure out, do you want the money or do you want the stress?
Mm.
Do you want the money or do you want less stress? That's what I'm trying to say. So, because they're really interchangeable. And if you're holding out for every single penny, you're going to have a high amount of stress. And stress is worth money. So, how much is that worth to you? Only you can decide, but you don't want to get down the process and be like, I wish I had no stress. Well, it's because you were holding out for this high dollar amount. So you really have to educate yourself. That's kind of the through line I have. Yeah.
I I mean, thinking about packing everything up and cleaning, decluttering,
Right.
that is a hefty to-do list if you're
But
considering selling.
here's the thing. A home will sell if you put a dollar on your home and it's a mess and decluttered and it's cluttered and everything's dated, it will sell. And if you put a dollar on that home and you put in the MLS and you've got great pictures, you've got great marketing, the public has seen it, it's going to be pushed up to the market value. So that's why it would be much less stressful. You don't have to do anything. We'll just price the home correctly. See what I'm saying? You won't
And
have
then
any
someone can
stress.
come in and say, home is worth what someone's willing to pay for
Home
it.
is worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it. Yep, for sure.
Um, I think that's really useful thoughts, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be fun to just ask some lightning round questions.
Sure.
You know, for it. Um, all right, just get to know you a little bit better and
Okay.
and your preferences as they hopefully tune into your YouTube page, and learn more. Are you someone who likes sweets or salty?
Sweets for sure. I
What
love
about oh
sugar.
yeah, go oh, wait, do
No,
you
I love
have
my
like
sugar. Love my sugar.
same. And maybe this gives away with your move, but beach or mountains?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Would you go to the beach or
Oh,
would
the
you rather be near
beach.
the
Oh my
mountains?
gosh. We walk on the beach every week. I love it.
That sounds
Yeah,
wonderful.
love it.
Um, what do you think is the most underrated town in Illinois?
That's a really hard question.
I know.
I think there's some towns that are kind of up and coming. But as I was kind of getting ready for this, I called a couple of other real estate agents to talk to them about Southern Illinois, because some of the towns in Southern Illinois have been growing a lot. And I asked him about it, and he's actually in Carbondale, so kind of the homes down there are near St. Louis. And he said you get a lot of people who graduated who are coming back to this area, and the homes are new because they are doing newer construction down there. So people can move down there. The homes don't seem like as much, they're not as much as they are up north. So I'm gonna say Carbondale. I'm gonna say Carbondale.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a good reminder that there's a lot of action across the rest of the state.
there is. There is.
Um, if you could snap your fingers right now and be anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Probably south of France.
And is it hotter is it hotter there right now than it is here in
I know. It's hot here.
it's hot here too.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that sounds wonderful. Is there one policy topic that you think needs more attention?
I think the ADUs. I do. I think that. I also think you can't talk about any of this without talking about the pensions. I just, because the property taxes are going to support the pensions, so it's all kind of interconnected together. Um, I mean,
Like an
that's,
angel just got its wings somewhere.
yeah, I mean,
We talk
that's,
about pensions.
yeah, I mean, that's the big elephant in the room in Illinois. That's the reason for a lot of issues. Listen, you have the pensions go away or fix it or do something, you're going to have a lot less problems in other areas. Yeah.
Um, if you could make one prediction, what would you predict?
Um, I'm predicting that housing in Illinois is still going to be tough for the next year. I really think. Now, here's the thing. I will say this though. I was wrong a lot during COVID. So take what I say with a grain of salt. I think it's going to be tough just because I don't foresee any movement with the interest rates going on enough to make it significant for somebody to move. I just and I do think that you're going to end up with a lot of people underwater at some point. I can't tell you when, but I'm working with clients and I can't even believe that they're paying these prices like $100,000, $200,000 over the list price. And they know they're overpaying, but do they really know what that looks like when they go to sell and they sell for 500 less? I mean, that's what I'm like, oh, I can't endorse the prices right now.
I'm watching this. I'm seeing it, like, paying attention to Redfin or online
Hmm.
and, like, neighboring homes that go up. It is overwhelming, and it's not just the Chicago, like, suburbs. I think you're right. It's happening in the city itself. It's happening with
Yeah,
renters, apparently. I'm hearing from folks that, like, people are bidding on rental properties. Like, there's a stated rent, and then someone might say, "Well, I'm willing to pay more."
right. No, 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 I know that's happening for sure.
It's crazy
It's
that
crazy.
it's very different than I
It
think it
is.
used to be, what, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, definitely
Um,
is.
Thank you so much, Katie. Is
Yeah.
there anything I haven't asked you yet that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I think that I would like the leaders in Illinois and the towns, the villages to start looking more towards agents to give them insight into the movement of the market. Like kind of like this conversation that I'm having with you, there are a lot of agents out there that could provide this. And I think that they're missing out because they go to consultants or, attorneys, and they're not talking to the people who are literally trying to get their buyers a home. And they're missing out on contract after contract, because they're not bidding enough or the interest rate's too high or they're like, forget it, we're not moving, we can't find anything. I think that it bringing in the conversation more in a holistic way, I think would help the whole state of Illinois. I really do. And it's not a political conversation. It's like, let's do what's good for the state. Let's see how we can make this work, but you can't make it work from up here. You have to really understand boots on the ground at the local level.
There are no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt that there are so many talented and knowledgeable real estate agents who've been in the field, for
Yep.
long periods of time or have just done a million transactions and who could probably have interesting insight. I love that on like a
Yes,
task force or just making policy recommendations, getting
right.
involved.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that is definitely what I would encourage. Not sure it'll happen, but
Thank you for all your insight today. If someone wanted to get a hold of you and learn more, how can they find you?
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. You can go to my YouTube channel. You can just search my name or you can go to watchkatie.com and that'll take you to the channel. If you've liked what you heard, you can subscribe. That's great. I have a bunch of free resources too. I've got my seller's planner, which is a free guide to downloading, free guide that actually helps you get your home ready to sell. I've got a private Facebook group that's for sellers only. And then I am launching my book, pre-order launching my book. You can go to protecttheseller.com. And if you purchase it now, I've got a lot of free giveaways that go with it too. It'll be out October 6th. So I'm very excited about
And
that.
it's called what again?
So the book is called Sell Your Home Without Blowing Up Your Life. And that's really what it's about. I don't want you to blow up your life. And you can get it at protecttheseller.com.